aspect of Ironman European Championships. You go from rural to urban to rural to small town to big town. It's really diverse, and that does matter. Sometimes as a pro athlete, you get very caught up in the watts and the intake and everything you have to do, the competition, but sometimes a welcome distraction comes from what you're looking at. Think, how much easier is it to ride your trainer, or how much harder is it to ride the trainer, stare at the wall, than it is to go out and ride a beautiful mountain road? So same thing applies here. If you're in Frankfurt and surrounding areas, riding through this gorgeous countryside, it's a lot easier than having something stale to watch.
So Sarah Crowley making her way toward Heartbreak Hill at the moment. We know that she's down around about 12 minutes. Also on our leader at the moment, that is Daniela Reeve from Switzerland, that's three-time world champion. And as you would imagine, having another stellar day out there today, coming in with a fresh set of legs in 2018. Taking a little bit of time off, a little bit of extended time off after Kona in 2017 after she won her third world championship. Now Danny comes in with a fresh set of legs. I don't know if that's good or bad, because racing alongside of somebody like that is really dangerous.
Well, I tell you, a fresh Daniela, because I do think what we saw last year in Kona, where, I mean, an incredible show from Lucy Charles, young, motivated, and so strong across all three disciplines. Lucy really just took Daniela to school for a good portion of that race, and everybody sort of thought, well, when is Daniela going to go? What is she doing? Well, I think she went and she appropriately put Lucy to bed at the end of the day, but it wasn't that dominant Daniela Reeve show that we've seen. So I think she was tired. I think she went in there.
G'day Zwifters, I'm Shane Miller, GP Llama, and welcome to Stage 3 of Tour de Oz. Today's route takes in Watopia Figure 8. Just under 30 kilometres and just over 18.4 miles. There's two main climbs on this course that will split the field. One early on and one not too soon before the finish. So hold that wheel, enjoy the racing, and good luck.
% on Daniela Reeve,
and probably realised that and took a little bit of an extended time off afterwards to recover properly before attacking 2018. And right now, looks like she did exactly the right thing. So it was really well done to her and her coaches to figure out that she needed that, you know, a little bit more to get over it. All right, so the live timing at the Ironman Tracker app at 75.9 kilometres in the women's, it was Daniela Reeve. Then it was Sarah Crowley at 12 minutes and 54 seconds. Sarah True in her first Ironman race representing the USA at 13:22. Then it was Rachel McBride now making her way through the field.
That's right, and we're looking at questions just about, I know this question says for Greg, but we can kind of jump in and share this one. What's the average cadence, and is it at all comparable to a Tour de France pro cyclist? Well, let's start at the back of your question and say that no, when you're doing a Tour de France ride, you do not have to run. You do not have any sort of concern other than the bike. You just are on the bike and you're going. It's a way higher cadence typically. You can elevate the heart rate to any unacceptable level for a triathlon. So, Greg, what about on these average cadences here?
Yeah, just to back up that one, also you're sitting in a group and saving around about 30% of your body's energy as well. So, you know, the cadence, you know, it just fluctuates. But, you know, with these athletes here, and as far as gearing goes, it's relatively the same. I mean, you know, a lot of athletes will be riding the same gear blocks on the back, the same cassettes, same up front as well, and they're just using, you know, different to figure out what's best for their cadence and their efficiency, their pedal efficiency. So they'll all work by, you know, power meters and you know, how to muster up the right energy and the right efficiencies. So yes, pretty much the same gear ratios, but they're using it differently because everybody's different.
That's right, everybody's different, and so, you know, I mean, there's a trend. I would say if you had to take a trend as we watch Sarah True kind of rocking and rolling through that third, well, still holding that third place position. A lot of times women are capable and prefer to run slightly lower cadences. I think they do well with that, and there is an absolute individual difference like Greg mentioned, but when you see a guy that's kind of grinding out a 60, 65 cadence, it's less effective than I think some of the top women can do. So, you know, there's a big range, but But also, throughout the course of the race, you're going to see that change. So towards the end of a race, your cadence naturally will slow for almost anyone.
Yeah, so the last picture that we saw with Sarah True is didn't see any shine on her legs or her arms. As we can see a little bit of shine on Danny's arms and legs, she's sweating. Whereas Sarah wasn't, so a little bit of dehydration possibly setting in with Sarah. So, you know, she needs to just sort of, you know, boost the energy levels, boost the nutrition going in. And that was what she said in her interview a little bit earlier on in the show. She just wanted to make sure that she stayed right up in tune with her nutrition all day long, all day strong. There's James Long. Ironman Wales by far all across the course. The swim is second to none with Tenby Harbour. So thank you very much, James. I agree. Ironman Wales. That's a great race.
Yeah, that's right. Coming up September 9th this year, that Ironman Wales. A lot of good racing. Ironman Wisconsin is also that weekend over in the U.S., but it's a big weekend of racing. Right now, we are watching this incredible Daniela Ryf performance. She's doing what she does best, and that's just burying the competition behind her. If you calculate out that 12, 13-minute lead, that's essentially a 2-mile or nearly or 3K, over 3K lead on the run. I mean, that's just a massive bit. So here's a good question, Greg.
Yeah, Emil Degstani, how do athletes refill their bottles on the bike ride? So what you do is if you're going through an aid station, you make sure you slow down. Slow down a little bit, make sure you get that water bottle, and then you just sit up. One hand on the handlebars. As the other one opens, you can open it with your mouth, and then you can refill your front water bottle. Or if you're just taking on a new water bottle, just safely put it into your aero position bottle holder on the back of the bike or down on the down tube, but just do it safely. So it's pretty easy once you master the fact that you've got to do that in training as well.
That's right. Practice makes perfect, and if you're not out there, practicing the fueling strategy, the hydration strategy, picking up bottles, you're not going to do it as effectively in a race. So always something to remember. And you can see some of these other athletes that are in the race recognizing that if they stick close to Daniela Ryf, they're doing okay. And some of these professional men that are behind and got caught up, they really can't. They can't match her. They can try. That was from Slovakia, Marek Nemchik, and he's just right there, second wheel in the orange. And then further back, I mean, I'm just looking through my list. That also looks like from
Marcus
Belgium, Esther Olivier.
Yeah, I think it was Marcus Liebelt as well, just riding in a little bit behind Daniela Ryf right now. So she's got a couple of men pros riding behind. Can't actually make that pass at the moment. Danny's riding very well today, as we see, just heading through that 95-kilometre mark. So just about 75 to 80 kilometres to go for Daniela Ryf right now. A little bit over 2 hours of riding for our three-time Ironman world champion and also the main over Ironman European champion just a few years ago.
That's right, and she also two-time Ironman 70.3 world champion. She won in Austria at Zell am See. Kind of didn't have her form for Australia, Malulaba, but then she came back strong in Chattanooga. Incredible racing, though. She still raced well down there in Australia, but not well enough to take a third title in a row. But absolutely a great little block of racing since about 2015, when she kind of came in like a storm.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, she's come into her own. She came from the Olympic distance racing like, Sarah True and also Annie Haug that are doing their Ironman rookie races today. But, it didn't take her long to actually, get to the front of the, the top of the world there, 70.3 distance first of all. And then when she took on the Ironman, she just came into her own. And it was almost like it was a really seamless transition.
Well, remember, Greg, in 2014, she started the process with a Olympic. She did Switzerland Olympic distance, I believe, and then the very next day did the Ironman Switzerland, and then qualified for Kona via that. Showed up in Kona, got second place to Marinda Carfrae, and suddenly you've got second place Marinda Carfrae. In the next 3 years is kind of history. She won 3 Ironman titles in a row.
All right, so if you're wondering who this is, riding really fast down the streets of Frankfurt, well, that is Josh Amberger. He is in the lead of the race, and now he's overtaking some lap riders out on their first lap. But we did catch up with Josh, and we talked about his race here in Frankfurt.
Yeah, so I ticked the Kona points off in Ironman South Africa earlier in the year. So I think, if anything, it kind of gives me a bit more freedom to race a little bit more aggressively this race and not really hold anything back. I know for the regional championship races, some athletes are only eyeing off podium finishes to get the points needed, whereas I can kind of come into this race really wanting to win it, having already got the points.
Well, that's a comfortable place to be, Greg, isn't it? I mean, that's the nothing to lose attitude. He's secure in Kona, the others aren't, and so why not go for it? Get up front, put some time to the others, see if you can crank out a win. If you blow up a little bit, lose, that first place position, who cares? I mean, you always care because you're a competitive athlete, but I think certainly there's no other ramifications where these guys right here that we're looking at all have ramifications. They have to get to that finish line, and some of them have to get there well.
You know what? I really love what he said, and he's taken the bull by the horns. He's not going to just, sit back and just ride on, any of the laurels, and he's really getting after it. And he did say one particularly interesting thing is that, lots of people are going to come into this race calculated and getting after the points so that they get their qualification. Josh has already got his points. He knows exactly what he needs to do. There's pressure on other people. He doesn't think there's pressure on himself, although it is a 4,000-point race. It's a $150,000, prize purse. But he really wants to get after this and have a chance at winning the race.
Yeah, that's $30,000 if you could be that first man across the line, first woman across the line as well. So, that's an important motivator. That's something that we do race for. So, keep that in mind. And certainly as Jan Frodeno's tackling this, he's thinking about the money. He's thinking about the performance, the competitive drive. Glory is on the line. I think everybody that gets into the sport not only enjoys the challenge, but you're competitive. I mean, there's always some sort of competition between these guys. And so right now it's obvious. It's get to the finish line first.
Adam Coates, does the Angry Bird still have a cleat set mid-foot? Do any of the other professionals do this? Well, Michael, we talked about this at the top of the show, didn't we?
We did talk about it a little bit. It looked like Amberger had a little bit of that going on, a little bit, not mid-foot, but certainly closer to mid-foot than forefoot. And I think Reef has kind of modified hers forward a bit as well. But no, they're definitely athletes that have figured out that coming back further is an advantageous spot to be in. And nonetheless, it's kind of interesting. So, and Greg, I just want to kind of touch base because somebody a little while ago, we just kind of stumbled upon the conversation and we were talking about Ironman Wales September 9th. It's such a hot time to race September. There's so many great races. But one of our fans chimed in earlier and it just brings back that memory. Greg, you've been there. Ironman Wisconsin, what a gorgeous course. It's probably one of the hardest, I think, bike courses around, but not to be missed. It's an epic, just absolutely beautiful race. Top 3, top 5 in the world. What do you think? It's awesome.
You know what it reminds me of?
Tell me.
This race.
That's right.
Because it's set, the swim is actually set in Madison, Wisconsin, which is the capital of Wisconsin. But we're just going up through Maintal. We're going up the cobblestone section right now. We can see that Amberger is showing no urgency whatsoever to get up this hill in breakneck speeds. He's just taking his time, just rolling over the cadence there nicely, not even getting out of the saddle, as you can see, just going by, some other of the races just going through there for the first loop. But, gosh, he looks good right now.
He looks great, and so, you know what, it's kind of cool. There is this one little section of this race where you get sort of amped out by the people that are on the sidelines. Guess what? They do have that out there outside of Verona in Wisconsin. Let's take a look, and if anyone's looking for a super challenging and beautiful race, check out this Ironman Madison course. Here's a little bit of a glimpse into that gorgeous course.
Wisconsin is a interesting transition start line. Monona Terrace was built by Frank Lloyd Wright, one of the greatest architects of our time. So everybody walks down the helix, and then they come to the water. The swim is just in Lake Monona is fantastic. It's always flat, it's smooth, and the sun always rises when everybody's out in the water. And it's just majestic. They come back to T2 and they head out on John Nolan Parkway. It's amazing to me. I know Madison like it's my hometown because I've been back every year for the race, but I could move there. I mean, that's the type of town Madison is. And then people have a great ride because it's a fantastic course. They run right through the heart of Madison. All the college students from the University of Wisconsin are out there cheering them on. And then that finish line. Every time I call someone an Ironman, I look up and you see this great building with the liberty of our country behind the finishers coming on in. It's majestic. And when they get their finisher picture from Finisher Pics, it's just that state capitol is behind them. Wisconsin is it's a long day. The bike course is challenging because you've got up and downs, undulating hills, but people love it. And it's a race I can never wait to get back to.
Well, there you have it, straight from Mike Riley, the voice of Ironman. He's talking to you about an iconic race that started back in 2002. Inaugural winner?
Good question.
Chris Lieto from the USA took that title out in 2002.
And I want to say Heather Goldnick.
I think you're right. That is correct. So that's good. We've got a little bit of memory still going.
And this is Rachel McBride.
We have Rachel McBride, a recent winner of Ironman 70.3 Victoria. That took place only a couple weeks ago, 3. But I tell you what, she is an athlete we expected to have one of the fastest bike splits outside of Daniela Reeve. I think she's proven that she's a smart racer and she's coming through strong. But in the end, this race has so much mileage out in front of it that I expect that we'll see a lot more of Rachel McBride.
Yeah, we got another question coming in from Rickard Lindholm. Thank you, Rickard. Any comment on the knee angle in cycling compared to running? I've heard that you should strive to have similar angles. Correct. When you're sitting in the upright position, but when you're in the down position, like a hero position like we are right now, it's not going to make sense that you do that because forward running is not what you need to be practicing. You need to practice a good posture. You need to keep your hips square to the target. You need to have your ankles and your knees, going through in perfect symmetry. And you just need to have a little bit of an upward body lean as well. Keep your chin down and tucked in nicely, and that should be good to go. But the knee angles in the biking and running, not so much, but it's a good point to bring up.
For sure, and I think, one thing that I would encourage you guys to look at as we see more and more side shots of different athletes on courses is how low or how high the saddle is on their bike, because I think that's a more relevant issue to dig into and say, as I'm getting my bike fit or getting comfortable on my own ride, how do I maximize my overall game? Because it's not just a bike race, it's not just a run race, it's an Ironman race, and that's where you have to say, all right, the best I could do is kind of maximizing each of these positions. There you go, Greg. That's that fun cobble section for Ty Butterfield.
Yeah, Ty Butterfield, which makes it known to me that Jan Frodeno is here as well. Also, Patrick Langer sitting right in front of Butterfield at the moment. So we can see that after going through and past some lap traffic right now, it is Amberger. He's in the lead only by 3:47. So now it's getting interesting there, Michael. It's coming down, 3:47. So it's come down from 4:16 to 4:04. And another 17 seconds comes off the clock. Patrick Nielsen, he's right in there as well at 3:49. And Tyler Butterfield and Patrick Langer. Oh boy, it is getting interesting now.
The heat is on, and it goes by the name of 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't say all the names fast enough, but the heat is on. Come on. This is Patrick Langer. He's gamely fighting. He's right behind Nielsen, and Frodeno setting the tone, but gosh, this is exciting racing. Greg, we talked about how towards the end or in that second loop, that's when the players were going to come out to play. Amberger, he's still doing incredibly well. He still hasn't ever surrendered overall time. He started with a 2-minute lead, but I tell you what, or 1:33 once they took transition out. I mean, this is it, man. The cavalry's coming.
Yeah, Fredissimo was the one that really put a little bit of urgency into the pedals just before we got into Frankfurt after Heartbreak Hill on the first lap. And then as he accelerated at the beginning of the second lap, he is really now trying to get away from the rest of the competition. And here's Patrick Langer. He's been aggressive so far. He's done really well. He's bridged up some gaps. He's done a lot of work out there. But Frodeno right now is really working hard. Patrick Nielsen is trying to hang on. So is Langer, so is Butterfield, and what about Castellane? This is getting exciting.
Actually, you know, it's funny because we haven't seen a whole lot of camera time of actual side shots or close-ups of Butterfield, but Tyler looks great. I mean, he doesn't look like – he looks like he's on the group ride. He looks like he's on a weekly group ride, cruising through Boulder. He's strong, he's assertive, but you know what? He's riding – 300 watts? Big deal. He's just like, hey, I can do this. This is nothing compared to what I'm capable of.
Yeah, well, he's got such a great attitude about it as well. But I tell you what, the guy that's leading the race up there, I think he's got to say a little bit more about the race as well. Let's hear it to Josh.
I think when one races in Frankfurt, they can always expect unbelievable competition. Typically from the Europeans, it's not often that non-Europeans come and do this race, so that was definitely something I wanted to target as an Australian. I feel as if that advantages me somewhat because I know in this race the Germans are typically looking at each other to win, so hopefully I can sneak around the side somewhere there.
Such good words from our race leader. He keeps sort of deflecting. You say, hey, those guys are racing each other. They're kind of concerned with points. They're kind of concerned with this. I'm just going to sneak off and try and win this race. The only spoiler, Josh, is that everybody also knows that too. So they know what they're looking at. They know what you're capable of. We've all watched you race. Frodeno knows. Everybody knows. So you can't sneak away, man. You're too good, okay? You're just too good.
Yeah, it really is. But I like the way that he does think, though. I think that he, you know, he's got a valid point. I think that Langer and Frodeno are really, you know, are looking at each other. And, you know, I think that there's a little bit of a rivalry, you know, happening between, happening between these two guys right now. As you see that Frodeno gets into the tuck position there, you can see that Langer is still up, you know, riding in his aero position. So just going through the same areas there. So, you know, Frodeno's creating a little bit of speed here by just getting down. Look at Pete Murray, the voice of Ironman Australia. Rip it, Aussie.
That's a good comment. Finally, you're awake over there, I guess. That's what's really going on, Pete, or else you just haven't been enjoying our coverage. But thanks for chiming in. You were here last week as well, and we sure appreciate it. But there it is. That's your quintessential Frankfurt shot. Frankfurt in the background, rural farmlands in the foreground, and there's that little picture of those athletes riding along at breakneck speeds on the highway. So this race is fun. Time and time again, we come here and we see incredible racing, people just giving it that good summer go. Cam Brown chimed in earlier, and I just have to touch base on the Kiwi 12-time Ironman New Zealand champion and a multiple Ironman winner. So he won this race in 2006. That was 12 years ago, kind of a big deal. This is my point by bringing it up, is people historically have figured out a really good way to race exceptionally fast in mid-July, early July, mid-July. It's a great time frame, and I think it allows you to still recover with a 2 or 3 week downtime, 2 week downtime, build appropriately for yourself, and still target an exceptional Kona. So that to me is very noteworthy. I mean, every athlete here gets on the start line knowing that a win at the Ironman European Championship is coveted and important and lucrative, but they also know that it fits the plan. These guys aren't racing like back in the day. They had to race Canada at the end of, Ironman Canada at the end of August. Not anymore. Now you can time it very well. High caliber race, early July, just a note.
Josh just got into a bit of a speed wobble there as we saw him getting down in the aero position. As we look at Daniela Reef now taking a 16-minute lead on Sarah True and Sarah Crowley. So I tell you what, these two Sarahs are only separated by 30 seconds now. So Sarah True is really hanging tough as Josh Amberger is now making his way through the downhill section, going very, very fast. And I tell you what, Michael, I think it's right on the time that we should talk about it, the Kona points ranking system. All right, so Josh Amberger is locked into 20th position. He's pretty much a lock for Kona this year. But the guys that need to validate and show some urgency about that is Jan Frodeno and Patrick Langer. They have to finish the race to validate. Then you've got Tyler Butterfield and a few of the other athletes like Nicholas Castellane. They need top finishes today to get their start in the World Championship, and it all is going to come down to the run course.
Just because Daniela Reef is awesome, let's touch base with where she's at in the overall. And I'm sorry for the Kiwi and Mark Bosted fans to bring this up right now, but she just launched your guy and got herself into 8th overall for the pro race. Daniela Reef threw 99K, which was a while back for the fellas. She went through in 3 hours, 26 minutes, and 8th place in the men's field went through at 3:29. Why do I mention this? I like Mark. It's not to get into his business. It's really just a testament to how she's got 15 minutes on second place female. Daniela Reef is off and running. It's incredible. She's killing it.
Mikey, I'm going to help you out.
Help me out.
1988 was a great year. It was a long time ago, but I'm old, so I remember that,
20 years.
Right? Okay, so I'll get back to that, right? So Daniela Reef is first in the Kona points ranking. Sarah Crowley in 8th. Sarah True in 39th. Annie Haug in 67th. And Katja Konchak in 85th. Now, just remember, July 29 is going to be the first cutoff, the first, 30 women, and also the first, 45 guys are going to be, given their opportunities to enter the race. Then at August 19 is going to be the final cutoff for the pro athletes, to get themselves entered into the race here. So there's a lot on the line, for these athletes right now.
Well, Greg, you just brought that up. So those numbers look pretty high. You're thinking, well, how can 67? But guess what? This race is offering so many points, 4,000 points on offer. So once you jump down, if you're in the top 5, you're getting 2,000 points. So that's the equivalent of winning one of the other races. So these women are all in better space than others who may be ahead of them on the ranking system.
And that's why they come to Frankfurt, because the main over European Championship is a championship race. It offers the 4,000 points. It also offers the $150,000 total prize purse. And it's one of those championship races that, you've got to be in really good shape for. So there you go. Patrick Langer on the men's side in 4th. Amberger is in 20th. Patrick Nielsen in 33rd. He's close to, securing his position. Frodeno just has to finish the race. And Butcherer, we know that he's out of the race. So he's going to have to find another race to go to here pretty soon.
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
Ironman Hamburg or something.
I mean, depending on why he dropped out, that'll be the question. I mean, if he's injured, it could be the season changes focus. If it was a mechanical, then certainly get into the next one that is open. Remember that Ironman professional athletes have the ability to get into any race, but not inside that 3-week cutoff. So they have up to 3 weeks. So, for example, if he's not on the Hamburg start list already, he kind of can't do it, or he could probably sign up tonight, because you basically have to make that happen. It's a fair rule that keeps these athletes, it keeps them sticking to a schedule. They're not jumping around. They're not saying, hey, last minute I'm going to skip this and go to that. You have to be integrous and race the schedule that you have put forth.
I agree 100%, Mike. You have to put yourself down on the start list and get yourself ready for those races without jumping in across from one race to the next. Give yourself an opportunity of training well for a race as well. All right, so a little bit of news out there. Josh Amberger leads now by 3:44, so nothing much has really changed over the last 20K. Patrick Nielsen, Patrick Langer, and Tyler Butterfield, however, are at 3:49, but the one omission is Nicholas Castellane. He's nowhere to be seen right now, so he looks like he's popped off the back at this point in time. So the Australian has now fallen off outside of the top 5, as Tyler Butterfield was 5th at the 121-kilometre marker, and Nicholas Castellane is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, and we saw that writing on the wall a little bit, but check out this little technical stretch of road where those athletes are put to handle the bikes a little bit better. They can't just point and shoot. They've got to kind of curve through that and handle the bike and try not to lose any valuable speed with braking or just poor handling. But I have to keep remarking, she's She's
Look
really,
how fast that is.
And you know what? Daniela Ryf came on the scene obviously very good from the outset. She was second place in her first Ironman Hawaii, but here's the real story. She's improving her game every year. Like, I really feel, Greg, that she's better looking on the bike, a better aero position. She's tucked in. She's focused on equipment choice a little bit more. She's maximizing all those things. You know what caused that? Perhaps it was almost getting beat sort of by Lucy Charles, put to the test anyway. Perhaps it was knowing, hey, I'm racing Sarah Crowley, one of these athletes that's one of the best, won 2 regional championships last year. Either way, Daniela Ryf, I think she's up the game, and I'm excited to hear how she viewed this race in advance of it earlier this week.
Well, yeah, definitely she's a very strong athlete. I'm excited to race against her again. I think it's a good challenge and to see where I'm at also. First long distance race this year, and yeah, I can expect that she could probably hang on. She was hanging on in Kona much longer than I wanted, and on Sunday I don't know how long she will hang on, or maybe she will make the pace. I don't know, but yeah, it will be interesting what's going to happen. But I will make her also lead a bit.
Well, there you go. She talked a little bit about the past. Hey, she was giving up a good fight in Kona, and I don't want to see her hanging around that long. And this time, you haven't even seen her, Daniela. She lost you on the swim and lost you further on the bike. And now Daniela having a couple words with these young professional men saying you need to – oh, and this man actually just kind of got himself – who could have earned himself a penalty. Once you start passing, young man, you've got to get through. And again, a rule that we push all the time. He certainly didn't mean to do that for a competitive advantage, but it's in the rules. Anyhow, there she goes. How does she look?
She looks great. I mean, you know, she's hanging in there. Remember, this young lady had a flat tire in the first 10 kilometers of the race today, and now she's right in there. So she hasn't given up. She's just been hanging in the whole time there as we got a good look at, you know, Danny Ryf just a moment ago, just, you know, telling the boys where to go and where not to go. Well, so anyhow,
19 minutes down, but guess what?
Yeah,
she's only 4 minutes down out of second. So okay, is she going to catch Daniela Ryf? Probably nobody is, but she's only 4 minutes out of. Am I right? Am I looking at that correctly? She's only 4 minutes out of second, and with her the running pedigree, the 1:14 run she has done at the 70.3, this woman can easily make it a game and run through everyone on the field except Daniela.
Yeah, agree. Absolutely agree with that. And just a moment ago, you know, we did mention that Nicholas Castelline had not come up onto the timing mat, and he has now, and he's still in that group. So at 3:51 down. So we do apologise for the information that we got was not right, and we apologise for that once again. But back to our live coverage. Anyhow, looks really, really good right now, and I love the way that she's just leant over her body, over her bike right now, her body over her bike, and you know, just making away, like you said, just 4 minutes down on second place. And given the run speed that she can carry, you know, through a marathon, it should be very interesting to watch what actually goes on in the next you know, 70 kilometers of the bike course, and then what can happen on the run course. So it's looking good for Annie Haug.
Well, and it's fun to finally see her on camera once she's gotten back up in the ranks here, because she also looks great. She's not someone that a lot of times you'll see an IT or a short course athlete come over and stick to a little bit more of the old school position. We saw that with Andy Raylard back in 09, I believe it was, or had to have been maybe 08 in Ironman Arizona. And he came over from Clearwater from racing the Ironman 70.3 World Championship, and he was just on a road bike, and he looked terrible. He was so good, but that's not the case here. So historically, we've seen some athletes not kind of made that change. She looks like a long course athlete from right away.
Yeah, so we got a good look at the wind farms out here on the bike course today. Just light wind to speak of, but I tell you what's making a fuss out there at the moment is Josh Amberger. He's way up the front of this race at a 3:44 lead over Jan Frodeno, Patrick Nielsen, Patrick Langer, Tyler Butt Field and Nicholas Castellane from Australia. And here he is on screen right now is Josh Amberger. He is the current leader of the 17th edition of this wonderful event, the Main Over Ironman European Championship, as he goes through another one of these aid stations here, carefully just slowing down a little bit, sitting up on the top of the bike there and getting in some very important nutrition, because now is exactly where the body is just screaming out for the nutrition. At the 4-hour mark, you bet that your body is like been leaning over your bike. It's been swimming, it's 3.8 kilometers or 2.4 miles, and now you have put your body through hell and back. And it wants to take on every drop of nutrition and put it to work.
Oh, you're exactly right, Greg. And I think this is that kind of spot in that 120 to 130 kilometer mark. It's where often the body just starts to say, okay, I'm having a natural lull. I feel a little bit rough. I need a little bit more salt. The heat's starting to get to me. I can't stand the taste of another gel. I feel like there's sugar crawling up and down my tongue. I've got to have something. Give me a toothbrush. It's an odd sensation where you really start to become aware, sometimes acutely or overly aware of all these things that didn't bother you 20 minutes ago. And so you know how you manage that. And Greg, you're exactly right. 4 hours into an overall bit of exercising, if this were an Ironman 70.3, you're done. These guys still have a better part of 4 hours to go. So it really is a moment of truth for the athletes. And he looks like he's handling it fine. Here's a little section. Let me get a rest and tuck into the arrow position here. But otherwise, we're gonna know if this, Greg, if that 340 drops to 230 in the next time split, Amberger is suffering.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that Josh Amberger right now is doing just fine. He looks nice in this little tuck position, and you're exactly halfway into this race right now at the Main Over Ironman European Championship here in Frankfurt, exactly halfway. So you know that the nutrition part is going to be the most important thing that is on the mind of these athletes at this particular point in time. So it's going to be that they have to think about it, not lose their concentration, which is very easy to do, at this point of the race.
Oh, it's super easy to do, and there's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of traffic on the roads as far as other athletes go. There's zero traffic from a car standpoint, just official vehicles and motorcycles on course. But you overcome people, and if you lose focus for a split second, you find yourself on the wrong side of an age group athlete. You've got to move over, move left, move right, sit, stand. I mean, all that stuff requires extra focus, and the brain just naturally loses that mental acuity. You need sometimes a bit of caffeine to keep that, to sort of stave off that mental fatigue. It's really one of the hard elements, because we talk about how mental this sport is. So that the tough thing is right when your body's kind of going through this, your mind will also just naturally tire. I mean, come along and you're like, well, wait, lose focus for a second, and my speed dropped 5 kilometers an hour. So a lot going on, a lot of focus, a lot of questions to be answered.
Yeah, so just coming up to the 130-kilometer point of the race right now. We're about 85 miles into it. So we now have the athletes having to work their way back. Nutrition is on their mind. Pacing is on their mind. The run is on their mind. And the other athletes are especially on the mind, especially when you're going for the win of the race right now. And Amberger, he thinks he's got what it takes to win this race. That's a pretty bold statement when you come up against the 2015 and 16 champion in Jan Frodeno. It's a pretty bold statement when you come up to the 2017 Ironman World Champion. But I tell you what, this young Australian, he's fairly calculated.
He is, and I think the cool thing is, again, we saw his first attempt at Ironman DNF, second attempt at Ironman, kind of a rough go through that Ironman South Africa. Third attempt, he won it. So quick learner, and a guy that is just really enjoyable to watch race. He really is. Jan Frodeno looks like he's mad. He looks kind of like, I'm sitting here in a group ride, pissed off I don't have the front lead. I mean, he doesn't look like he's working hard at all on that right side. He just looks like he's kind of like, hey man, what the heck? But really, back to Amberger. I mean, I just really enjoy when he's on the start list because he gives you a fun race to watch. You could tell he thrives on this. He's going for it.
Yeah, really is going for it. I mean, look at him. He's just absolutely he's got clean air out there, Michael, and that's something that, Jan Frodeno hasn't enjoyed today. He's had 5 other athletes around him all day long, and that's enough to drive you mad. And you don't want it to be on your mind, but it is on your mind. It's one of those things that you can't just put it away. It's there. You have to deal with it. You have to readjust. You've got to look at a different way of thinking about, okay, what do I do? Are these guys going to help me out, or what's going to happen here? So unfortunately, he's had company the whole way, and I don't think that happens to Jan that much.
Yeah, that's right. I think athletes, these great athletes like Jan Frodeno, and the span of time at the top, it's been 10 years since he won Olympic gold. He was performing obviously quite well before that. But when you're at the top that long, you do start to expect it and you do start to demand it. And it's frustrating when you, for whatever reason, aren't excelling or getting away or just notably better than others. And here's where you start to say this man won't make excuses. He got to the finish line in Kona last year, even though he was walking for some of it. But Greg, this is where it may actually have been. You know what? That crash, that hamstring, the lost training, the missed bit, it just could give him 97%, 95%. Where all of a sudden Jan is not the 100% Jan. He's just a little bit below tank. So,
well, case in point just there, Jan Frodeno come around that left-hander. He was so much faster than everybody else, but he had to slow down to stay out of the way of a drafting penalty of getting inside of that 12-meter zone. Now, if he was at the front of the race, that would have been 2 or 3 seconds advantage over the rest of the competition there. So when you see Patrick Nielsen, leading going through that corner, then you had the likes of Patrick Langer, then you had Frodeno on third wheel, and then you had Tyler Butterfield and then Nicholas Castelline. There's 5 guys. I mean, it's hard to keep a really fast racing line, when you got 5 guys around like that. And that's where I saw Frodeno losing a couple of seconds on that corner.
Yeah, great point. I mean, that's the frustrating thing. We saw this, Greg, you and I, 2 weeks ago in Ironman France in Nice, where we said, hey, how does a group work together well enough to minimize loss? They did great there. In this case, a group can be cumbersome. It can be difficult. And here Langer goes by Nielsen, and we see this, a little bit of accountability. Maybe he slowed, but man, I have to say too, I haven't given enough credit to the gutsy efforts of Patrick Langer. He's certainly not sitting in and hiding. He's certainly not just putzing around saying I've got a 240 to my credit or 235. He's going to put himself out there and try and have respect from his peers when he finishes and just get a good race.
Oh, to the contrary, he's been one of the guys that's been aggressive, and it's been really good to see because when Jan Frodeno entered the sport of Ironman triathlon, I know that there was a few comments, well, he's not the biker that Sebastian Kienle is, or Norman Stadler, or the rest of the dominant Germans out there, and Jan said, well, just watch me do it. And I think it was back in 2015, and he came out and I think he laid down the fastest bike split that day.
Like a 408, wasn't it? It was
amazing.
Fast.
It was amazing. So, and I think that's the record that still stands to this day. And that's what he did, and that's the ability of this guy and the talent of what he packs in his punch, and it's an absolutely amazing talent to have, and only one, Frodeno's only one of many that can actually go out there and just prove me wrong. Yeah. Just prove me wrong.
That's right. I remember that really good banter back and forth between Kienle and Frodeno. So when Frodeno came to Las Vegas for that first Ironman 70.3 World Championship attempt, he almost disrespected what the others were doing and tried to just say, hey, I'm who I am. And he had talked trash. He had sort of called Kienle just a cyclist. It was kind of the reverse. And then Kienle won that race and he had won 2 back-to-back and was on his upward slope. But Jan missed very little. He immediately kind of licked his wounds and dropped out of that race. but he licked his wounds. And the very next year, he was absolutely a force to be reckoned with. Went to Kona his first time with a flat tire, and he got third place.
Third.
So that was immediately like, all right, we've got to respect this guy. And you're totally right. 15, he put down that to that 4:08, and we were all sitting here, you and I, watching it, saying, "Uh-oh, if he can do that, this
he can do anything.
He can absolutely do it. He should and could win multiple Konas with that kind of ability."
So a little bit of movement checks in with Patrick Langer now. You can see that he's really thrusting himself forward on that seat at the moment, and those shoulders are just bouncing up and down. You can see the mid-thoracic section of the back also working very hard. So Patrick Langer, the 2016 Ironman World Champion, working exceptionally hard now in halfway through the second lap of the bike ride. So the athletes now coming up to that 140 kilometre mark, just 45 kilometres to go. We're looking at about an hour and a half, a little bit more than that of cycling to go before they climb off the bikes and head out onto the run course at the 2018 Ironman European Championship right here in Frankfurt. And this is your 2017 Ironman World Champion working it.
Wow, I tell you what, good call there, Greg. And watching Patrick, he looks so good out of the saddle, and I think that again comes to that lightweight, small runner, runner style and runner build that he carries. When you see him on the bike, all that fore and aft movement, all that forward, backward, all that kind of, I think, lost energy. I mean, this is an athlete that is really just working hard. You can see it. That could be an understatement, right? It's a hard race and it's a hard, high level. So of course he's working hard. But when I see Jan Frodeno, I say he looked bored or mad. It's because he looks so smooth at that same pedal, at that same speed. And I see Patrick Langer, on the other hand, just really putting the pressure on and trying to get every inch of his body moving forward. And I don't know, here again to the front of our race with Josh, he just looks smooth too. I mean, he's up out of the saddle quick, gets a little movement, back down, a very smooth bit of energy, just nothing lost as he's centered on that bike and just channeling the energy straight into the pedals.
Yeah, I can see that Josh, just riding nicely still. He's still got that 3.5 minute lead on the rest of the group there and just riding really nicely as he's just ascending the top of this hill. But while we got a moment, let's get you caught up to speed on top age group men at the moment. So through 100 kilometres, our leader was from France, Mathieu Paolio, and he was just about 2 minutes and 20 seconds up on John Envertsolden from Denmark. Massimiliano Radi from Italy was in third. Roy LaLiga was in fourth position. And then in fifth position was Rafael Pupal from Germany as well. So let's get you caught up to speed on our women's age group competition at the moment. And we can see that we have... Well, let's just go back while we got a moment here and check out the action from this morning.
Revisiting first out of the water, Josh Amberger in that chase pack of 4. But as we look at the women's race, Daniela Reef quickly getting out of transition in first place just ahead of Sarah True. Right out of transition, Annie Haug, her first Ironman. Oh, is it thwarted? No, but she got that flat tire changed right back onto the course. Josh Amberger got well away and led the race and has done that since early strokes of the swim. Patrick Langer grouped up with a small but powerful group of 4, including Jan Frodeno, Patrick Nielsen from Sweden, as well as Ty Butterfield and training partner Nick Castellane. But on the women's side, we have seen all day long Daniela Reef.
And she's been strong, there, Michael, and she's just been dominating the race so far here. But Josh Amberger, he's still out in the front there, just really working it hard. But Jan Frodeno is not going to give an inch. He really wants his part of the race here. Patrick Langer, he's also hanging in there. But Josh Amberger has been very impressive, to say the least.
That's right. It's been quite a show so far. Lots of action to go. The men's race still looking to give us approximately 3 hours and 40 minutes of action-packed racing. We have not a lot left on this bike ride for these men, and they will tackle that 4-lap course around the main river. But it is a heated battle. The temperature's warming up. but so is this competition, Greg. Patrick Lenga just, man, really impressive with the drive that he continues to apply, the pressure that he's putting. Really something that is in stark contrast to how he raced in Kona, where he clearly went hard. He won the race, but he didn't do it on the front of the bike. He got in and settled into a pace that was more appropriate, and then just unleashed a powerful and daring run to take down Lionel Sanders. But right now, he's assertive. He's just getting after it.
Yeah, it really is. And you know, it's funny you should mention last year's race when he ran down Lionel Sanders right at the end there. Lionel was just absolutely amazing. You know, the last part of the bike ride and all the way through the run, just muscled his way through that run, and he was just so powerful and strong and almost held onto it. But when you got someone like running a 2:39 high, you know, to run you down at the end of the Ironman in Hawaii, under those conditions, the pressure cooker and all the pressure that comes along with trying to win the World Championship,